11.3. Next section, 11.3, system administration. There's a lot of tools that we're going to learn about now, and we're going to use these in our virtual machines on Monday. We're going to do a bunch of different configuration changes and use these tools so you can actually use them and see what's going on with each of these. Hoo-yah? Awesome. All right, starting with computer management. Now, I've mentioned computer management before, usually when I'm talking about device manager, right? So computer management, this is a very, very useful place. In fact, a bunch of stuff that we're going to do and talk about in the rest of this chapter is all going to be done in computer management. So if you go to the search bar, you type in computer management, well, then you've got a few different sections. You've got system tools, storage, services and appliances, or applications. That's the three main areas. In system tools, you've got task scheduler, event viewer, shared folders, local users and groups, performance, and device manager. Ooh, we've already talked about device manager, right? Yes. We've already gone on there. We were just there. So computer management allows you to get to all of these useful places to do these things. Good to go? You also have your storage, your disk management. We've been in there as well already. What did we do in disk management? Partitions. Very good. So computer management, very useful. A lot of things in there that we're going to be doing. Hoo-yah? Hoo-yah. Excellent. Event viewer. Well, here you can view different events, not like Bon Jovi or U2, that kind of event, but what events occurred on the computer. This is your logs for errors, right? Oh, I keep getting this error, or this is happening. Well, you're going to want to narrow down or figure out what's happening in your computer. Go to Event Viewer, and you can see what's going on, these errors. It's going to record various events as well. It's going to record, and you can configure the settings, unsuccessful attempts as well as successful attempts. Why do you think we might want to record unsuccessful attempts? Thomas? So you know what not to do the next time? Serna, you want to add?
To see what didn't work in the past.
To see what didn't work in the past, but also for security, right? If someone tries to break onto the base and what we stop them, do you think we take down their information and charge them and record them? Yes. Yeah, right? Because then if they ever do, oh, they try again. Oh, they didn't get in that way. They didn't get in that way. Right? We want to record that. Good? Now, why might we want to record successful things? Well, I successfully logged on. I successfully opened this application. Why might, Hancock, we want to record successful attempts? Jackson?
To let you know that the computer is running smoothly, maybe.
To let you know it's running smoothly? So there's also something called non-repudiation as well. So when you open up your computer, you can Control-Delete. You put your CAC in. It knows, oh, yep, somebody put a CAC in. They hit Control-Delete. Oh, they entered the PIN, and that was successful. Well, the CAC is something only you have, and the PIN is something only you know. So no one else was using that computer, right? You walk away with your CAC, and you're logged in. Non-repudiation says, oh, no, that was you that did that thing. Also, from an attack standpoint or defense, if someone tries and fails to get in here, tries and fails to get in here, tries and fails to get in here, we're recording those unsuccessful attempts. Well, if they do find a way to sneak in, that successful attempt, we want to know how they got in so we can block that. But we're just speaking very, very broadly here, talking about various events, etc. So, the different categories of events. You have information. This is a successful event. Something a driver, software executed successfully. Daily, there's going to be thousands of these information logs or events. Warning. Warning. This is an indication of a problem. It's not functioning ideally. It may still be working, but it's not functioning the way that it should be. Error. There's a problem, but no immediate action is required as of this time. When is action required? Well, that's with a critical right? With a critical event, immediate action is required. So this is going to be a system issue, a software issue. Your computer locks up, your system crashes, shuts off. These are where those are going to be. Good? Turn up.
Is there certain icons for all of these? Like,
Categories. We'll see it in just a second.
okay, cool.
All right, you also have success and failure audits. These are for security only, which we talked about, right? So success, that's when an event has been successful, like a user logging in. Failure audit, like someone tried to log in and it failed. We create a failure audit event. You enter your PIN wrong, there you go. We need time to write these down? All right. We need more time? Yeah? Okay. Anyone else need more time? All right. And we're going to come visit this more on Monday when we get into the VMs. We're also going to visit more local users and groups. For now, users, remember this is in computer management. You can go to users and groups, and you can create users here. In fact, this might be the most efficient place to create users, because if you're creating users, you're probably creating a lot of users. And let's say, like on this base, we've got two general categories of individuals. You've got student and you've got staff, right? So you can put those into different groups. So I can make a user account for Garner, for Cerner, for Carrillo, for Martin. Carrillo, how do you say it? Yeah, that's what I said.
You got him with Cerner.
Talking is difficult sometimes, or all the time. So each of you has a user account. Make sense? Now, it would take a lot of work to create your user account and specify what resources you have access to. Oh, these files, these folders, these directories, etc. And these certain logging events, what you can do, what you can't do, time of day access, etc. So instead, create the account, put you in a group, and you set group permissions. And then since you're part of that group, you follow all of those security policies. Davia.
And just to be clear, you have to do this all in the administrator?
Correct, yeah, this requires administrative level privileges. Good to go? So, and we'll demonstrate this later, but we can see under system tools, you've got local users and groups, and then you've got a users category, and then a groups category. So when you're in the users, and you click that, you can right-click in the empty space, new user, or you can go file, new user. And you do the same thing in groups. Right-click the empty space, new group, or file, new group, but we're going to demonstrate this later. Hooyah? Now, which type of user would have full access to everything? Administrator, right? Good. And you also have guests. That's a temporary profile. Guest accounts are going to be disabled by default. And for us, for guest accounts, just like guest badges, right? Think of guest badges to get in the compound, guest accounts for a computer. You don't want to just have the guest account open all the time. If they're going to use the guest account, you want to record, right? Oh, who's doing it, right? Who's using that? When do they need it for? Somebody approves that. And then you make sure only during those times that guest account is available. If for some reason they need to extend that, well, then you extend it, but just that period of time with that permission. You don't leave it open all the time. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes. Awesome. Questions on users and groups? We'll demonstrate this. In the VMs, you're going to be doing this. Yeah.
So like all of our users will be grouped into student accounts.
Correct.
And everybody, like instructors, will be admins.
Staff. Yeah. Not admin, but in a different permission level.
Now, could you make it that like the group, say if you make a group and you give them one password, the group has to use that same password to get into the computer? Or
No, no. Each individual user's credentials would be specific to them. It wouldn't be credentials for a group.
Okay.
That's just permissions to access these resources, these folders, what changes can they make on the computers, etc. Why and two? Between what two things? Oh, they just have two. Yeah. Notice how it's disabled too, that second one. So they just have a backup.
But it's the same thing.
Correct, yeah. That's just how they have that one set up. All right, next section we have is performance monitor. So we've seen some of this stuff before in the task manager, but here we can see graphs for different resources for hardware, how they're performing. And this is the history. And you can set various triggers if it goes off a certain percentage, et cetera, to record it, to log it as well. Next. COM, Component Services and Data Sources. So COM stands for Component Object Model. This is in, not in computer management, but it's in its own separate thing in its COM, Component Object Module. This allows software components in enterprise environments like this. Large Navy, we've got multiple buildings, multiple rooms, etc. If we want these things to be deployed and update these, we would use COM. Oh, hey, we're going to put packet tracer on all these computers. We could use that with COM. Good?
Yeah.
Services. All right, this could, services. These are a type of application. So what applications you think of are usually like, Microsoft Word, Google Chrome, etc. Services are a type of application, but services allow you to achieve a specific task or serve a specific function. It runs in the background, right? Like you can see below here on this example, branch cache, which we already talked about, which allows the networked computers to share devices like shared drive. Now, you don't want all these services running unless you specifically need to use them because of the security risk. You wouldn't just have all the doors open. You want to close off and not have these services that provide certain functions running unless you need to. Like here you've got various Bluetooth, branch cache we talked about, certificate propagation or spreading the certificates throughout the system, etc. So there are lots and lots of services. So here, for services, there are different states for these services or their settings. So there's two types of automatic. The first automatic is just automatic. When your computer starts, boom, those are the first services that load up. Automatic, you boot up your computer, those services turn on first. Automatic delayed is the same thing, but if it's automatic delayed, those just occur after the automatic. It does the automatic first, and then it does the automatic delayed. It's a little bit of a priority difference. Now, delayed is only an option available in Windows 7. For these services, the state, if you set it as manual, that service will only be started if it's manually started by a user or if a program needs that service. Not when the program turns on, unless it needs it when it turns on, but when that program requests it, or if a user needs it for that. And this has been happening in the background in your computer without you realizing it. You have disabled, where you disable it, and it can't be used until you enable it. It's administratively closed off, can't be used. And stopped just means it's not running, either because it's manual and it's just not in use, or it's just not being utilized. Good to go? We need a second? All right. Cerna.
What kind of services are constantly running, like on a daily basis?
A lot.
A lot of things.
Because think services, so you think of like a application, these are just sub-applications that allow certain things in your computer to occur, right? Like they support the operation of Bluetooth, they support the operation of wireless, they support the operation of your certificates working on the computer. So it's all these background services that make the computer function.
Wouldn't it also show the OS?
And the OS, yeah. Give us a little bit of time to write. Co? Drivers think of as a translator, the piece of code that's going to allow, oh, hey, this hardware, this printer speaks in this language, the computer speaks in this language. Translate so that way they can communicate. There would be services that are running to support that. Good? Okay. More time? Yeah? Okay. All right, let's move on. Databases. A database like Microsoft Excel is probably the most common example of a database. It's a conglomerate. It's a lot of data that's going to be able to reference other points of data. So managing various databases and data sources, you can use a tool called Open Database Connectivity, or ODBC. There's a program so that way you can access a wide range of databases or data sources. Maybe you've got an Excel, and then you've got SQL, or you've got Microsoft Access, which runs off of Excel. But you can take these different data points, these data sources, and then you can manage them all at once. That is ODBC, Open Database Connectivity. Questions? No questions. Continuing 11.3, print management. So here we have the print management utility. You just search print management, opens it up, and we can see here various things. Custom filters, we can see print servers. If we have a server for a printer, we've got all printers. So if you've got, like here in an enterprise, a large network, more than likely you're going to have multiple printers that you can print to. So you want to be able to manage those printers, see those resources, or see the print server. So here we can see all these different printers here. We can see the queue or the pooling status here. We can right-click and we can select these printers and get into more details. Easy day? So it's an easy place for us to manage lots of printers. Memory diagnostics. So this is a tool that will test or check your memory. So which hardware are we talking about here with memory? RAM. Now you can have this configured so it's done automatically. When the computer reboots, you can initiate it on your own, or the next time the computer starts. It's going to be checking for physical errors on the RAM. And it'll record these test results in Event Viewer. Good to go? And this can take some time. Let's see what we know. What is a computer was updated with new RAM and it has become unstable. It's not clear whether there is a problem with the RAM or Windows. Windows memory diagnostics. An administrator needs to access a collection of system administration utilities that are all assembled in one location. Administrative tools. A user complains that the computer locks up often. The administrator wants to determine which application or service is causing this to happen. Event viewer. A software developer wants to understand how a new COM component is configured. Component services. Users are complaining that they cannot print to the office printer. Print management. Easy day?
Easy day.
Questions? 11.3.2. System utilities for system information. We want to quickly be able to find information. Now we briefly saw this earlier in a different area of the computer or the software. Here it's going to have a lot more information for us in the system information, down to each hardware component, the manufacturer, the version, etc. for our system, and if we scroll down further, even more information. Now, in the computer, this will be stored under your MS Info 32. But here we can see our optical drive with CD-ROM, our displays, infrared capabilities if we have it, USB, various ports, and we can see all of the information, very detailed for all of this. BIOS version, if it's 32-bit, 64, where these files are located, etc. Good to go? Questions? MS-config. This stands for Microsoft System Configuration. Microsoft S System Config Configuration. So this is a troubleshooting tool so we can see if our computer is not booting up, Why is our computer not booting up correctly? I would use msconfig. I can look into various services, startup options. I can turn them on, I can turn them off, so I can narrow down troubleshooting what specific service is causing this issue. And you want to do this, of course, one at a time. You can remove, you can disable, you can reinstall, etc. That's msconfig, system configuration. During boot up, what's not allowing it to start up? Easy day? All right, next thing we have, the registry. The registry. This is really important. The registry, software-wise, is your computer. Obviously, the operating system, right, that loads your computer is your computer. The registry is the brain of it all. It's very low level. And what do we mean by low level? Well, you've got higher level stuff and lower level. It really gets into the nitty-gritty, into the weeds of everything, right? Everything you do on a computer, every setting, every change is going to be in the registry. There is a lot of information in the registry. Computer forensics, this is where they're going to catch people that are doing crimes, etc. Everything that you're doing is going to be recorded in the registry, including modifying the registry, deleting things from the registry, etc. Does this kind of make sense to everyone? Yes. Now, this is laid out in a tree or a hierarchy format, just like our directories. Thomas?
So the registry software version would be like the software version of the CPU? So the CPU is the
Yeah.
for the hardware?
Bingo. Now, because of this tree, this hierarchical format, there are different keys, and these keys are called hives, or hive keys. There are 5 different hive keys, which we'll shorten to H keys, but there are really only 2 true H keys. That's HKLM, or hive key local machine, and HKU, or hive key users. And then everything else is branched underneath those. But we'll talk about each of them, starting with HKLM, hive key local machine. This is information about this specific device. On a different computer, HKLM, local machine, would be about this specific device. Good to go? It's about that local machine, that device, the hardware configurations, the network logon, all of that stuff, security. You have HKU, that's hive key users. This is the hardware and software configuration settings for all users. For all users. What's underneath that is HKCU, or current user. So each user, current user that's logged in, they're going to have those things. So here, if we've got Jackson's computer here, and something illegal happens on this computer, well, who is logged in right now? Jackson, right? So Bravo Shift comes in, and then police come in and say, hey, you're on this computer. Well, they'd go in there, and they'd find, oh, no, that wasn't the Bravo Shift student. Jackson was the one that was logged in during that time. Does that make sense? Current user, the current user. Good to go? HKCR, classes root. This is about the file system, file associations, shortcuts. When you do your indexing, you're searching through your file explorer for certain files. That's where that's going to be at here. We talked about users, and then HKCC, hive key current config. That's about the current hardware profile of the machine. This is the high-level view of everything, and these get branched down very, very, very specific and low level, and they get up to 512 levels deep from the original ones for each of these. Registry, very important. This is the brain of your computer. This is where all that software, all the changes are going to be. Cerna.
How would you access the registry?
How do you access that? Great question. Now, if you're going into the registry, you want to be careful. You want to know what you're doing, etc. And that's what we're going to see next, is how can we edit or get into the registry. And that is with regedit or registry editor. So you can just search or run and do regedit. Now, of course, you're going to need what level privileges? Administrative level privileges. So regedit, that'll bring you in here. And we can see here on the left, we've got HK, we got classes root, current user, local machine, users, etc. And they're treed, right? There's a hierarchy, so you can open it up, and then it spreads from there. And then if we click this, it would open up even more, and even more, and even more, right? And you get very specific. And then you can get into here the actual configuration changes of the registry. And these are stored in a database style format. We can go in and change these values if need be. But you want to be very careful when you're editing the registry. Good? We feel like we got it?
But you can also just go in there just to like figure out, like you said.
Yeah.
Go fishing for anything.
Go fishing. Now, if I were you, I would do it in a VM as you're learning, right? Do it because you break a VM, you just delete that VM, you're good to go. Who ya? There you go. Next. All right, we have talked a lot about a lot of different tools today. You're probably thinking, it's an IT. That's going to be difficult. I've got to go over here to do this. I've got to go over here to do that. How am I going to keep track of all of this? Well, there is a management tool called MMC, Microsoft Management Console. Here, it's going to be a place where you can add in different tools. These add-ins are called snap-ins, where you could put computer management there. You could put device manager there. You could put whatever you want there, so that way you've got one location where you can do all your administrative tasks and configure things. Does that make sense? All right, we'll go to the next thing. DXDiag. This stands for DirectX Diagnostic Tools. Now remember, we already talked about DirectX. That's a collection of APIs, right, that we talked about. So if you've got DirectX drivers or components, here you can do troubleshooting on anything that is DirectX related for your multimedia. The next thing we have is a check our understanding. A technician is working with technical support for a software company. One of the programs has not installed properly and will not run. Tech support reports that some registry keys need to be modified. Regedit. What does regedit do? Edit the registry, 5 root keys, etc. Next, new software was configured on a computer. The user is complaining that the computer now locks up frequently. The technician wants to start troubleshooting by booting the computer with minimal configuration. Minimal configuration. I'm hearing system configuration the most. Next, a technician is finding that security issues are becoming a big part of daily duties. The technician would like to assemble a group of tools that can be easily accessed to address security issues. MMC, which stands for Microsoft Management Console. When we add those in, those are called snap-ins. A company uses a 3D design program to provide visualizations of facility designs. The program crashes when rendering the visualizations. DXDiag. Last one. A user is complaining about problems with the computer. The last one, system configuration?
Find out detailed information about the computer. No, it's not. No, it's not.
All right, last one. A user is complaining about problems with the computer. The administrator can access the computer over the network and needs to find out detailed information about the computer. System information. Huya? Yes, this one will say that is incorrect, but it is. So we will skip. Let's see what we already know about disk management. We've already been in disk management. We've created partitions. Let's see what we might already know. A user has a disk image that they would like to browse, like a disk volume, in order to see the contents of the file system. Initialized disk is what I'm hearing the most. A new disk drive has been added to a computer, however, it is not formatted. I'm hearing mount disk. We'll do mount disk. We want to flip those two? Okay. We'll make the first one mount and the second one initialize. A drive has a system partition and a data partition. The system partition is running out of space. Extend partition. We've already learned about that. A user's disk volume has a single partition. You want to create a new partition on the user's computer for data files. Split partition? Shrink. First thing we got to do to create a partition. A new partition needs to be created on a disk in which the existing partition takes up the entire drive capacity. Split? That should be shrink. And that should be split. Good? That's right. Very good. Questions? Disk management utility, 11332. We've already talked about this. We've already done this. We've already created partitions. We've talked about MBR. We've talked about GPT. So let's scroll down. Drive status. This is new for us in disk management. So we can see here on disk 0, healthy, 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 healthy. What does healthy mean? Well, it means that a volume is functioning properly. There's no errors. It's good to go. Now, let's say you take one hard drive in your computer and you move it to another computer. It's not natively from here. So it would mark it as foreign. It's been moved from one computer to another. What is a dynamic disk? A volume that spans across more than one drive, right? So while you're in the process of formatting or doing that, it'll say initializing. It's in the process of being converted over. Missing could be a disk that is corrupted, turned off, or the internal cable has been disconnected somehow. Not initialized, it's a disk that doesn't have a valid signature. Online, this is a basic or a dynamic disk that's accessible and shows no problems, right? So this is different than our partitions. This is about this disk over here. See how the status here says online? That's what we're talking about, not the volumes, the physical disk itself. We see this here, right, on the left, online, online. Basic or dynamic disk, not a volume. Online with errors, that tells us that we have I/O, input or output errors are detected on a dynamic disk, not a basic disk. Offline, this is a dynamic disk that's corrupted or it's unavailable for whatever reason. And unreadable is either a basic or dynamic disk, but it's got hardware failure, it's got corruption, or it's got input-output errors. Hoo-yah? We need a second to write these down? Not seeing much writing, so we just continue? Give you a little bit of time. All right, let's move on. Mounting a drive. All right, mounting. Making something readable as a drive. So for example, taking an ISO image file and making it readable. You could also create a shortcut in File Explorer and have it be readable as well. So if we scroll down this image, that might help this make sense here. We have this ISO, this bootable image, and see when we mount it that it comes up on File Explorer as a drive that we can save and do things in, right? Mounting, making it usable as a storage medium. Good? Cerna.
This might not pertain to anything, but I see up there it says burn, and I've heard a little bit about burning discs.
We'll talk about that later. I'm just making a copy. Next we have arrays. All right, in disk management, we can create RAID arrays. What does RAID stand for? Redundant array of independent disks. RAID, advantages of RAID, two things we talked about. What are they? Speed and redundancy. We learned about mirroring. What else? Striping. Striping with parity, etc. We learned about RAID 0, 1, 5, 6, etc., right? So if you want to create a RAID array, you'd also do that in disk management. Now, of course, you're going to need at least how many physical hard drives to create an array or a RAID array? Two, right? And we know these already. Easy day? All right, so how would you do that? Well, you'd right-click, and you could click on New RAID 5 volume. Or you can get more specific. This is an older version of Windows. That's in disk management. On the right, you can do storage spaces. And you can create a pool of storage to set up your various RAID arrays as well. Hooyah? Disk optimization. Now, we talked about before how, over time, fantastic, disks become fragmented. Here's a hard drive. Let's say I create some ITE notes, IT Essentials notes, one day. Then later on, I download some song. Well, that's going to go in the next place. The next day, update my file and save. We'll put that new information in the next logical space. Notice how this file in red naturally gets fragmented or spread out over time. So there's a tool to erase these. Not really erase, but reorganize, so that way this file is all together. And then the next one is all together. It's going to make your read and your write speeds faster. And this is called disk defrag on older operating systems. On newer one, it's called disk optimize or just optimize. Putting it all in order. Imagine you've got socks. I imagine you've got more than one sock. You've got socks here in one closet over here. You put some in a drawer over here. You put some over here in the laundry basket. Well, they're fragmented. They're all over the place. It's a lot easier to find your socks if they're all in one place, right? So that's what it's doing, just organizing, putting it all together. Correct, yeah. Now, you can also check your disk for physical errors. We watched really in-depth videos, and we know that the magnetism, there's peaks and valleys, so we can check for physical errors on those disks as well. I think that's all in that section, but let's scroll up and double check. Yeah, that's good. And scroll down. And we talked about disk error checking. So let's scroll down to the check your understanding. All right, a user complains. A user would never complain. A user complains. Oh, that's the second one. A colleague has the ISO disk image file of a training DVD that the technician would like to view on the computer. Mounting. All right, now a user complains that the hard drive takes a long time to open large files. Defragment. Now called optimize. A second hard drive has been making strange sounds and no longer available in File Explorer. I'm hearing two different things. Unreadable, okay. A user is working on a very sensitive project. The technician wants to be sure that the project files are always backed up by mirroring the project drive. Storage spaces. The computer of a technician has partitions for Windows 8 and 10 so that it can support both operating systems. The technician wants the computer to boot to Windows 8 because a customer has a question about that operating system. Active partition. A data disk has returned errors when opening files. Error checking. Okay, questions on this, on 11.3. 11.3.3, okay.